always thrilled at the touch of Shri Yukteswar's holy feet. A disciple is spiritually magnetized by reverent contact with a master. A subtle current is generated. The devotee's undesirable habit mechanisms in the brain are often as if cauterized. The grooves of his worldly tendencies are beneficially disturbed. Momentarily, at least, he may find the secret wheels of Maya lifting and glimpse the reality of bliss. My whole body responded with a liberating glow whenever I knelt in the Indian fashion before my Guru. Even when Lahiri Mahasaya was silent, Master told me, or when he conversed on other than strictly religious topics, I discovered that nonetheless he had transmitted to me ineffable knowledge. Shri Yukteswar affected me similarly. If I entered the Hermitage in a worried or indifferent frame of mind, my attitude imperceptibly changed. A healing calm descended at the mere sight of my Guru. Each day with him was a new experience in joy, peace and wisdom. Never did I find him deluded or emotionally intoxicated with greed, anger or human attachment. The darkness of Maya is silently approaching. Let us hie homeward within. With these cautionary words, Master constantly reminded his disciples of the need for Kriya Yoga. A new student occasionally expressed doubts regarding his own worthiness to engage in yoga practice. Forget the past, Shri Yukteswar would console him. The vanished lives of all men are dark with many shames. Human conduct is ever unreliable until man is anchored in the divine. Everything in future will improve if you are making a spiritual effort now. Master always had young disciples in his ashram. Their intellectual and spiritual education was his lifelong interest. Even shortly before he passed on, he accepted as Hermitage residents 2 6-year-old boys and a youth of 16. All those in his charge were carefully trained. Disciple and discipline are etymologically and practically related. The ashram residents loved and revered their Guru. A slight clap of his hands sufficed to bring them eagerly to his side. When his mood was silent and withdrawn, no one ventured to speak. Even his laugh rang jovially. Children looked upon him as their own. Shri Yukteswar seldom asked others to render him a personal service, nor would he accept a chela's help unless it was offered cheerfully. Master himself would wash his clothes if the disciples forgot the privileged task. His usual garment was the traditional ochre-colored Swami robe. For indoor use he wore laceless shoes that had been made in accordance with yogi custom of tiger or deer skin. Shri Yukteswar spoke fluent English, French, Bengali and Hindi. His Sanskrit was fair. He patiently instructed his young disciples in certain shortcuts that he had ingeniously devised for the study of English and Sanskrit. Master was not solicitously attached to his body, but he was cautious of it. The divine, he pointed out, properly manifests itself through physical and mental soundness. He discountenanced all extremes. To a disciple who wanted to fast for a long period, my Guru said laughingly, "Why not throw the dog a bone?" Shri Yukteswar's health was excellent. I never saw him unwell. To show respect for a worldly custom, he permitted his students, if they wished, to consult doctors. Physicians, he said, should carry on their work of healing through God's laws as applied to matter. But he extolled the superiority of mental therapy and often repeated, "Wisdom is the greatest cleanser," he told his chelas. The body is a treacherous friend. Give it its due, no more. Pain and pleasure are transitory. Endure all dualities with calmness, trying at the same time to remove yourself beyond their power. Imagination is the door through which disease as well as healing enters. Disbelieve in the reality of sickness even when you are ill. An unrecognized visitor will flee. Master numbered many doctors among his disciples. Those who have studied physiology should go further and investigate the science of the soul. He told them, a subtle spiritual structure is hidden just behind the bodily mechanism. Shri Yukteswar counseled his students to be living liaisons of Western and Eastern virtues. Himself an executive Occidental in outer habits, inwardly he was the spiritual Oriental. He praised the progressive, resourceful and hygienic ways of the West and the religious ideals that give a centuried halo to the East. Discipline had not been unknown to me. At home, father was strict, Ananta often severe, but Shri Yukteswar's training may not be described as other than drastic. A perfectionist, my guru was hypercritical of his disciples, whether in matters of movement or in the subtle nuisances of ordinary behavior. Good manners without sincerity are like a beautiful dead lady, he remarked on a suitable occasion. Straightforwardness without civility is like a surgeon's knife, effective but unpleasant. Candor with courtesy is helpful and admirable. Master was apparently satisfied with my spiritual progress, for he seldom referred to it. In other matters, my ears were no strangers to reproof. My chief offences were absent-mindedness, intermittent indulgence in sad moods, non-observance of certain rules of etiquette, and occasional unmethodical ways. Observe how the activities of your father Bhagavati are well organized and well balanced, my guru pointed out. The two disciples of Lahiri Mahasaya had met soon after my first visit to the Serampore Hermitage. Father and master deeply admired each other. Both had built a beautiful inner life on foundations of spiritual granite, insoluble against the ages. From a transient teacher of my earlier life, I had imbibed a few erroneous lessons. A chela, I had been told, need not concern himself strenuously with worldly duties. When I had neglected or carelessly performed my tasks, I had not been chastised. Human nature finds such instructions very easy of assimilation. Under Master's unsparing rod, however, I soon recovered from the agreeable delusions of irresponsibility. Those who are too good for this world are adorning some other, Shri Yukteswar remarked one day. So long as you breathe the free air of earth, you are under obligation to render grateful service. Only he who has fully mastered the breathless state is freed from cosmic imperatives, he added drily. I shall not fail to let you know when you have attained the final perfection. My guru could not be bribed even by love. He showed no leniency to anyone who, like myself, had willingly offered to become a disciple. Whether master and I were surrounded by his students or by strangers or were alone together, he always spoke plainly and upbraided sharply. No trifling lapse into shallowness or inconsistency escaped his rebuke. This flattening to the ego treatment was hard to endure, but my unchangeable resolve was to allow Shri Yukteswar to iron out all of my psychological kinks. As he labored at this titanic transformation, I shook many times under the weight of his disciplinary hammer. If you don't like my words, you are at liberty to leave at any time, Master assured me. I want nothing from you but your own improvement. Stay only if you feel benefited. I am immeasurably grateful for the humbling blows he dealt my vanity. I sometimes felt that metaphorically he was discovering and uprooting every diseased tooth in my jaw. The hard core of egotism is difficult to dislodge except rudely. With its departure, the divine finds at last an unobstructed channel. In vain it seeks to percolate through flinty hearts of selfishness. Shri Yukteswar's intuition was penetrating. Heedless of remarks, he often replied to one's unexpressed thoughts. The words a person uses and the actual thoughts behind them may be poles apart. By calmness, my guru said, try to feel the thoughts behind the confusion of men's verbiage. The disclosures of divine insight are often painful to worldly ears. Master was not popular with superficial students. The wise, always few in number, deeply revered him. I dare say Shri Yukteswar would have been the most sought-after guru in India had his speech not been so candid and so censorious. I am hard on those who come for my training, he admitted to me. That is my way. Take it or leave it. I never compromise. But you will be much kinder to your disciples. That is your way. I try to purify only in fires of severity. These are searing beyond to the average toleration. The gentle approach of love is also transfiguring. The inflexible and the yielding methods are equally effective if applied with wisdom. He added, you will go to foreign lands where blunt assaults on the ego are not appreciated. A teacher could not spread India's message in the West without an ample fund of accommodative patience and forbearance. I refuse to say how often in America I have remembered Master's words.